The Cincinnati Reds must make 3 moves, one of them in the lineup, and 2 of them, these dudes should just get off the roster.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name is Jeff Carr. We have been talking about this team in podcast form for a combined 14 seasons, a long, long time. We love talking Reds. We love talking Reds baseball, and we love talking with you. On today's show, we are going to be looking at your comments and giving you our responses a little bit later today as we are live here on YouTube. We're going to dig into Luis May being sent a packing. He is on his way back down to Louisville, and we're going to start with talking about what these Reds need to fix right now. Jeff has some very, very, very strong opinions. So let's dive into this thing, Jeff, and begin to pick apart what needs to happen right now. I know a couple of the things you got for us I'm going to agree with, and one of them I'm going to fight you on. So let's go.
There's 3 moves, 3 moves that definitely need to happen. There's a 4th move that we can discuss, and I think we will probably discuss it throughout the majority of this show, but definitely 3. The first one is that Santiago Espinal needs to stop hitting second. We're done with it. Done with it. Move somebody else into that spot. I have an idea as to who that will be. We'll discuss that in just a moment. The next 2 moves involve 2 guys at the end of the bench, Garrett Hampson, Connor Joe. Get them out of here. Want somebody else in there. Resigns is obviously one of the answers for that. And then we'll have some discussions on the other guy. And then the fourth point that I want to make, those first 3 roster moves need to happen immediately. The other one that I think needs to be discussed is Matt McLain being sent down.
All right,
we're going to just a little bit.
We're going to fight.
We'll fight about that one for sure. But I want to start first with Santiago Espinal, because I think most people agree that it's time. Like, he was moved in there because Matt McLain wasn't playing well, and it was obvious he needed to be moved down in the order, and so we needed to get somebody else in there. But Santiago Espinal wasn't the right guy, and the reason being, Steve, and I think you'll agree with me on this, he's a utility player, and utility players are fine. Every baseball team needs them. But we must be honest about what a utility player is, and that's not a number 2 hitter. Your number 2 hitter is like your best player. Bobby Witt Jr. was the Royals' number 2 hitter. Are we saying Santiago Espinal is on the same stratosphere here? Because that ain't the case.
So I hate it when you make me defend management. When you look at what Francona did and when he did it, Espinal was on a little bit of a heater. And given what else was going on with this offense at the time, I can kind of squint and see why he picked Santiago Espinal. That doesn't mean you're wrong now. Santiago Espinal should not be batting second anymore. He needs to move down. My answer to this problem is a platoon at the 2 spot between Steer and Lux. When Lux is in the lineup, I bat him second against right-handed pitching. And then against lefties, I put Spencer Steer there. I keep Elly batting third. And I think that gets you some high percentage on-base guys out in front of Elly De La Cruz and TJ Friedel and Steer and Lux to give Elly the opportunity to do Elly things. And now that it looks like Elly is heating up, it's more important than ever to give him those opportunities.
See, and I think that a couple of at-bats that Spencer Steer had on Wednesday night and some at-bats that he's been having here recently makes me believe it should be TJ Friedel, Elly De La Cruz, then Spencer Steer, then Austin Hayes. Spencer Steer has really tapped back in to his clutchness, his ability to come up with a big hit when you need it. He's done it a lot here recently. That's the guy that we know. That's the guy that we expected to see with Spencer Steer, and he hasn't been that guy for the majority of the season so far, but it's re-emerging. We're seeing it a lot more from him here now. I really think that Elly, as much as he is a great run driver inner, is an even better run scorer. And I think that he needs to be up ahead of those guys that can bring him in, because I do think that there's a couple of people that can bring him in, like Steer and Hayes and even Tyler Stevenson is starting to blossom into his run driver innerness.
Run driver inner, that's definitely the University of Alabama West, wherever the hell it is you went to school. My God. No, look, I need more from Elly than to just be the get on base guy and let somebody else do something. You and I have spent a lot of time talking about wanting Elly to take over games. And I know he can be disruptive on the base path and he can steal bases, but he can do all of those things after he's driven in 2 runs by having 2 high on base percentage guys in front of him. It's a no-brainer to me. I get what you're saying, but I also know this team needs to score runs, especially if they're not going to overhaul this bullpen, and 1 arm at best, I think we hope for. So it's not going to be an overhaul. So they need to score runs, and they score runs by getting RBIs, and Elly gets his RBIs by having guys in front of him that can get on base.
I think it's interesting, and it's definitely a conversation. The obvious first point of it, we need Espinal out of the 2 spot.
Yes,
it's who replaces him. That's the interesting answer. There's an obvious answer to the next 2 points that I'm making, though, that Garrett Hampson and Connor Joe need to be gone yesterday. I'm done with both of them. I don't know why they're here. I know Garrett Hampson was like taking reps at third base, and he can play the infield a little bit. He's actually listed as a second baseman on the MLB app. He's not listed as an outfielder. But I don't understand. Like, watching him bat, it doesn't seem like he has the ability to get a hit. And then Connor Joe is always up in the wrong spot, whether it's at the plate, on the bases, or trying to make a fielding play. Like that play yesterday, Steve, in the loss in the series finale against the Royals, Matt McLain tries to dive and make a play, and I'm not begrudging him for that. That was just one of those plays. CNI single, misses his glove. Connor Joe was like asleep in right field. I don't know if he was getting some Kansas City barbecue or something, but he wasn't backing up the play. And by the time he got to the ball, Michael Garcia, Royals infielder who was on first base, came all the way around to score on a ball that barely left the infield. I mean, what is Connor Joe doing here? Time for him to go. Give me Rhys Hines. Give me anybody else in AAA. I got to know what we got, because I know we don't got nothing with Hampson or Joe.
Well, here's the thing. You talk about
good point by Old School Fitness. If the Rockies got rid of him, what are we doing? What are the Reds doing with him?
Here's the thing. The Reds are telling us right now exactly what they think about the guys they've got in Louisville. They're answering your question. The front office of this team doesn't think they have anybody else down there that can contribute. That's why they went out and got Hampson. That's why Connor Joe is on this team. Now, do we agree with that assessment or not? I'll tell you this. I agree with you.
Rhys Hines should be here.
I agree with you. Rhys Hines should be here, and he should be playing until he proves that he is not the guy, right? They don't give him enough looks for us to make an informed decision about who Rhys Hines is going to be long-term at the majors.
And Tito told us 1,000 at bats. Like that's what he needs to evaluate a guy. He ain't even close to that.
No. So for me, I bring him up in the Connor Joe experiment. Hampson, I don't know what to say other than, he's fast. He can play some defense. His at bats look terrible, but he's fast. I don't know. I don't know what you do with him, but also, I mean, who are you calling up? What are you doing? I don't know. The Reds need to address some of what's in the pipeline, because clearly there's no answers in the outfield. There's no answers in the infield. There's no answers in the bullpen. There might be a few more starting pitchers coming. The minor league system is in bad shape.
Yeah. And I think that the future of the minor leagues is good, but that future isn't right now. And that's what the hard part is.
Way back.
The position side of things, for sure.
Before we get out of this segment, we're going to talk about the ridiculousness that you spewed there at the beginning.
We're going to lead off next segment.
Are we going to do the next segment?
Yeah,
because
we're going to lead off.
I'm ready. I'm
not glossing over it. Not glossing over, but yes, we will talk about why I'm not so sure Matt McLain shouldn't be sent down. It's 2025. I'm assuming you've got more than one financial account. You probably got your debit account. You probably got your credit account. probably have a few investment accounts as well, I got the perfect solution for you to see them all in one place. That's Monarch Money, because you probably got multiple different logins. I personally can't stand that. I'm glad that my phone kind of keeps that all together for me so that I can log in to those different things. But Monarch Money can help you out even more, because you just need one login and you just need one screen to see them all. You don't have to go to multiple different windows and all this other stuff. Monarch Money can help you out. Keep track of your finances. You can thrive financially by seeing it all in one place and not just survive. Financial freedom is where it's at when it comes to Monarch Money, and you can take control of your finances there today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and the code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Appreciate you being part of the Locked On Reds podcast every single day. If you're not an everydayer, you can become one by hitting that subscribe button here on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app. We're going to be with you all season long. Come rain, shine, buy, sell, whatever it is the Reds end up doing this year, we'll be with you every step of the way. And so will Tim Daniel. Live after the final out of every game, the Reds postcast hosted by Tim Daniel, right here on the Locked On Reds YouTube feed and in your audio feeds shortly after the live show ends. All right, Steve, the one last move, and I'm not saying that I think this should happen, but I'm also a lot more closer to saying that I think it should happen than I was a couple of weeks ago, is Matt McLain. Like, how does this work? Because he has now had plenty of time, I would say, sample size enough to say that this is beginning to look like a sophomore slump. And can the Reds really afford to give a sophomore slump 1 out of every 9 at bats every time through the order? Or should he be sent down to Louisville? Because I'm starting to think that's the case.
Well, let's answer your question with a couple questions, and then I'm going to tell you how ridiculous this is. Number one, who from Louisville are you going to bring up that's going to match Matt McLain's defensive ability on that infield and turning double plays and playing that position? Who's coming up and doing that? A. B, what is it that you think Matt McLain still has to learn from Pat Kelly and Louisville? There is nothing left for Matt McLain to learn. You said sophomore slump. It is a sophomore slump, and the way that you get through that is you play. You continue to play and you figure it out. This team has nobody else. They can't afford to stall his development. He missed an entire year of baseball, Jeff. Cut the guy some slack. He is very talented. We know that. And you've got nobody better. If you had somebody better, if he was blocking somebody that could come up and be a better offensive producer than he is and give you the same level of defense, I'd say you have an argument. You can't waste time. They don't have that guy. There's nobody else to call up. I mean, unless are we going to play Garrett Hampson while Matt McLain's down in Louisville trying to figure it out? We're not going to do that. It's crazy talk.
No, but Gavin Lux has the bandwidth to be an everyday second baseman, and then you could bring up somebody on the bench. Somebody's batting better than 179, and honestly,
who? I'm asking you who?
If we don't have somebody that can better than 179 in AAA. That's how bad it is?
I
don't buy that. I don't buy that at all.
Who are you bringing up?
59 OPS plus. We cannot sit here and continue to give a guy at bats every single possible day and expect this to be better.
Sounds like what we did with Will Benson.
His quality of contact a month ago was over 95 miles an hour on average. It has dropped to 91. We've seen the quality of contact, the thing that I stood on a table and said, because I'm seeing these numbers and because this is happening, I think that the slump is ending. But at the same time, it's not ending. We now have 173 at bats where he's got 31 more hits than you or I do. I don't know that running him out there every single day is doing him a service. And you say that he can't learn anything in AAA, you got to see the ball go in the hole eventually, Steve. The ball ain't going in the hole right now. Right now, he's hitting it in the woods. He's hitting it in the bush. And they're asking him to go find that ball and hit it from there again and then hit it in the hole. He's so far behind right now that we're looking at this and he's hitting ninth. The bottom third of the batting order is a black hole, and Matt McLain is one of the reasons, not one of the exceptions.
Oh, I just feel how the turntables, man. This is the Will Benson conversation from last year all over again with the roles reversed. Look, Jeff, I would support what you're saying if there was anybody at all that I believe could remotely come to the major leagues right now and produce offensively. There isn't anybody. And that means that you keep the Gold Glove defender at second base while he tries to figure it out. Matt McLain has an immense amount of talent. He showed us who he really is when he was getting consistent playing time before he was hurt. He had an entire year out of baseball, and he's also got the sophomore season now. This is really his sophomore season. So you're getting a sophomore season without having the benefit of just coming off your freshman season. He missed a whole year, had a gap year there, guys. So this is going to take a while, and I'm willing to give him that time because I truly believe that he can be great, and he's going to be great. So you're way too early on this. I just, talk to me again in July and let's see where we're at.
If he's hitting 179 in July, the Reds are not in a spot to play for the playoffs. It's not happening. But I don't know. Like, I don't feel like super strongly about it, but I don't know. The Reds keep doing this thing where they're like, let's run it out there every single day. Let's keep seeing Santiago Benesmal. You can hit second every day for a month. Matt McLain, you're hitting $179. You can keep on hitting every day. Like, it just kind of feels like they're not making those changes. But the Reds did make a change on Thursday afternoon, sending Luis May down. And I find this interesting, because his last couple of appearances were sort of what we worried about, right? He was erratic with control. He was walking guys. His most recent outing in Kansas City, 2 guys got on base, 1 run scored simply because he had no control. And while I think not a whole lot of him getting sent down to AAA, I think this underscores a much bigger problem with the bullpen at large, because we were excited about Luis May for the simple fact that it felt like he made this bullpen better. Mm-hmm. If the Reds are sending down a guy that we thought made the bullpen better, they really got to make a move here, because they don't have that other guy that they can really lean on. Like, they haven't made a corresponding move. This is one of those weird things, right, where we as fans sometimes clamor for somebody to get out of there, but then the question is who's going to replace him. The Reds haven't yet replaced him. They just sent him down. So there's more moves coming for sure. But I find this intriguing because I think this just underscores what we said yesterday. The Reds need to go get some bullpen help. And I think we're buying into the hype that it needs to be a top end of the bullpen arm.
I would love to have to do another show today because they went out and got a reliever. It would make me very, very happy. The Luis May thing, I know that pitchers sometimes try to copy each other, emulate each other, pick somebody and kind of pitch like them. It's just really unfortunate that Luis May went to Kansas City and tried to emulate Ricky Karcher. It didn't work out. It wasn't a good look.
Don't have that diagram anymore. That would have been fun to throw up.
That would have been fun to throw up. But, Luis May came up, showed us flashes of what he could be. Mm-hmm. Now he needs to take that back. I always talk about, is there anything else for him to learn at AAA? The argument I just made with Matt McLain, right? I do think there are things for him to learn at AAA. I think he can go back now and take what he learned at the big league level and apply that to pitching in Louisville and work on getting his control. Once he has consistent control, that sinker at 100 is just ugly. I don't know how you hit that. So if he can control that puppy and control his secondary pitches, get him back up here. But he needs to go learn that. That's something that he can learn in Louisville. And converse to Matt McLain's not going to learn how to hit big league pitching in Louisville. Like, we know he can hit minor league pitching. That's why he's up here. So I don't have a problem with this move. The fact that it doesn't come with a corresponding roster move is very, very interesting. I don't even have a guess, which normally we at least have a guess at what they're going to do. We have some tea leaves. I truly hope that Nick Kral's on the phone with somebody right now finalizing a deal. That's my hope, that they wanted to get parts moving because they knew they had somebody coming and went ahead and got Luis May out of here. I really hope that's what's happening.
I think there's a better than 0% chance that that is the case, because I was just thinking, well, Lyon Richardson kind of feels like the obvious thing, but it's not been 10 days. He hasn't actually spent the minimum required amount of time down in AAA before he can be recalled to the major leagues. And the only way that you can subvert that rule is if there's an injury. And this is not an injury. This is just they're sending him down. So I find that part intriguing. And I just wonder if there's more moves, like if they are getting rid of Connor Joe, if they are getting rid of Garrett Hampson, or if they are sending down Matt McLain, if there's a corresponding move that is attached to this. So that's going to be the part that really intrigues me. But it just goes to show that, like, this bullpen seemingly ebbs and flows almost with the lineup, and almost converse to the line. When the lineup's hitting, they ain't pitching. When they're pitching, the lineup ain't hitting. And it's been the most frustrating part. And for me, I don't know if you like made this connection, Steve, but there was a guy that pitched for the Royals in this series that the Reds actually had a chance to sign in the offseason. We even did an episode about him, and he looked pretty good. I'll tell you who that is coming up next, and we will get into your questions and your comments.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed in all the audio feeds. We are literally on every single podcasting app out there. And if you happen to find one that we're not on, let Jeff know and you need us there. He'll get it on there for you without a doubt. Also, you can check out Tim Daniels' postcast after each and every Reds game, available in that feed as well. All right, Jeff, let's get into the last little point you want to talk about, because I'm itching to get into this comment section that clearly thinks you're wrong as well. This is going to be fun, so let's go.
I'm interested to see why they think that. Oh, all right. Anyway, so the guy that I'm thinking of is Carlos Estevez. Carlos Estevez was available on the free agent list this past offseason. Yet another guy that we talked about, and I know we talked a few days ago about why the Reds missed on Paul Goldschmidt. And at the time, we didn't think it was a miss whenever the Yankees signed him and the Reds didn't. But the Royals signed Carlos Estevez to be their closer. Carlos Estevez has lots of career experience being a closer, being the ninth inning guy, being the guy who shuts the door on the other team. And the Reds let him go to the Royals. He would have been a perfect fit here, but they did not go get him. And he showed them why they missed him, because he had a 4-out save that the 4 batters that he faced for the Reds looked like they had no shot. Like Will Benson popped up on the first pitch for the final out of the 8th inning, which is where Estevez shut the door on the Reds' actual final chance to make a rally and tie the game. And then the 9th inning was 1, 2, 3. It wasn't even a question as to if the Reds were actually going to make a run at him. He just shut the door that quickly. And that's the kind of guy, Steve, that this bullpen does not have. Emilio Pagan, while he has closing experience in his career, has not been that guy. And there's nobody else on this roster that has been. So that's the kind of guy that I'm like, please go trade for that guy. Although the Royals, they're not trading Carlos Estevez, but trade for a guy like that.
Yeah, it's going to cost them to go out and get somebody. I said to you before we went live today, that at this point I want them to go, because we were talking about, is it better with this team as it's constructed to just stand pat and kind of whatever happens and look at it the offseason? And my answer is absolutely not. I'm sick and tired of it. You go make the playoffs and you do whatever it takes to go make the playoffs, because if you can get in that tournament, sometimes crazy things happen. And right now, I don't care who they trade that's not named Chase Burns. I do not care. Go make this team better so that it can compete, so that it can get to the postseason. And then maybe, just maybe, they can rumble, bumble, stumble, and fumble their way into winning a playoff series. I don't care how we get there. Just get there. Trade anybody that's not nailed down except Chase Burns.
And we're going to discuss that a lot more. We have a special Saturday episode coming for you this week, because we didn't have a Monday episode because of Memorial Day. So Saturday episode will be coming up. That'll be our main topic, and we'll kind of tell you who we think they should go for. And yeah, well, we'll discuss who the Reds should make available in those trades.
All right, let's get into this question and comment section. I may have overstated that everybody's against you. You might have some friends in this chat. I'm going to pick and choose. I'm going to find the guys that think you're wrong. And while I'm doing that, let's start with Adrian, who wants to know your thoughts on Bryson Bingham and Jack Rogers. Go.
Let's find out who they are. I kind of to the point where
and in place of who? In place of who? Who you?
Hampson
how you
and
making
Joe.
the room?
Yeah,
Hampson and Joe. Okay.
Let's find out who they are, because I know who Hampson and Joe are, and I don't think they can help this team. You're not making the playoffs because of Hampson and Joe. I don't know that you're making up the ground that they are currently games behind the Cubs in the Central because of Hampson and Joe. So let's see who Jack Rogers and Bryson Brigham are, who, probably a couple of weeks ago I would have said, I'm not that interested in seeing either of those guys in the major leagues. Like, I'm more interested in seeing those guys than Garrett Hampson or Connor Joe.
Let's go to this one. Aaron says, is the season over? I need some optimism. So right now, the Reds are 7.5 games back in the National League Central. That's a big number, but it's not insurmountable. More importantly, they're 4.5 games back in the final wild card spot. That is definitely accomplishable. Big words today. They can definitely do that. So no, the season is not over. Do they need to get their stuff together here pretty quick? Yes. We talked about Memorial Day being that first check-in. We told you what we thought. The team is not done, but they're in danger and they need to get serious. Since we talked about that, suddenly Elly De La Cruz has caught a little bit of fire. Tyler Stevenson has settled in. Spencer Steer is back to being Spencer Steer. There's something happening. The offense is scoring more than 4 runs a game. That's needed. So maybe, just maybe, a bullpen arm and the way the starters have been pitching is enough to finally have all the ingredients to cook with at the same time and get this team to compete and get them back in wild card contention and then see what happens. I don't know that the Cubs are going to stay that far out in front all season. They're good, but they're not like run away with it good, so they can be caught.
I appreciate Aaron's question because I've been feeling it through this episode. I've been feeling it here recently that it seems as though we've had more episodes that are critical of the Reds than more episodes that are optimistic / sunshine and rainbows and things like that are really trying to focus in on the positives of what's going on in the season. And a lot of that just happens to be that I feel beat down by this team. I feel like this team was set up for the last couple of years that they were going to be knocking on the door in 2025. That they were right there in the playoff picture, if not ahead of the division. And they just seem to be in the exact same spot they've been for the last 3 years, that they haven't made the progress that we've expected them to make, and that they're not making up that ground. So part of me, when I'm watching this Reds team, is I'm sort of focused on what they're missing. And that's why I keep looking at this and wondering, all right, like, I would love to talk about the fact that Tyler Stevenson was 3 for 4 yesterday. I would love to talk about the fact that Spencer Steer had 2 RBI singles that honestly were the only reason that the Reds scored a run. But at the same time, there's just so much about this team that is close. And it feels like they just need 1 or 2 things to happen, but they've got to be the ones to do it. And so I'm hoping that they do those things, and then we're cooking with gas.
I'm going to hit on a couple of these that I've got in front of me here, Jeff. Let's start with this one from Ryan, who says, late to the party, where was that on fire offense last night? Well, if you listened to the show the day before, we told you that this was going to happen.
Soft toss and lefty.
Soft toss and lefty is their nemesis, and it showed. They did exactly what we predicted based on who was going to be pitching. That guy was just hard to hit, and he's been hard for everybody to hit. If you go to his baseball reference page and look at what he's done now in his 4 starts, nobody can hit him. So that was exactly what was going to happen. That's exactly what was supposed to happen, and it's exactly what we told you was going to happen. So that's where the on-fire offense went.
And I found it intriguing because he was actually a guy who was called up to replace. They had 2 injuries in their rotation to 2 very important pitchers for them in Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo. And both of those guys are close to returning. And our buddy Jack Johnson over at Locked On Royals actually had an episode talking about, can Noah Cameron actually stick on the Major League roster? Well, if you look at his production, it makes no sense that he wouldn't be on the Major League roster. He's got 4 career starts, and they've all gone into the 7th inning. So that's crazy to think that he's on the bubble, but that's how good their pitching staff is. And
how could you send that guy down? How could you as the GM or the manager call that guy into your office and be like, listen, sorry, you're out of here. like
you weren't part of the plans.
What else does he have to do? That guy,
right.
I don't see how you send that guy down.
No, you can't send him down.
I wanted to
just
get
from our perspective, no.
I wanted to get this from another Jeff, one that spells his name right. Jeff says they lose 2 out of 3 to the Cubs and we're in big trouble. I want to ask you this same question statement the other way. If they take 2 of 3 from the Cubs in this weekend series, does your opinion of who they are and where they are change?
No, because they will be exactly at 500 and 6.5 games out of first place. They will be where we thought they would be during this time period. I mean, maybe not 6.5. I didn't think they'd fall that far. Like, the Cubs are just on fire right now. And it helps that they just played the Rockies. But at the same time, they're doing exactly what we kind of predicted them to do. They're not beating our expectations. They're meeting our expectations. And if they don't win 2 out of 3, then they will be missing our expectations.